SECRETS in smoke and fire, the dead of ash. The heavy glass door of the apartment complex hissed shut, a final barrier between the inferno and the ice. I stood on the sidewalk, my lungs screaming from the intake of carbon and terror. Behind me, the fourth floor was a jagged crown of orange light. Inside, Jason was a memory dissolving into soot. I looked down. The receipt was still crushed in my hand. "Manny, I know what you and your friend did." The letters, jagged and uneven, felt like they were searing into my palm. I looked across the street. The figure in the black hooded robe was a silhouette against the storm, a void in the shape of a man. As he stepped onto the bus, lightning fractured the sky, illuminating the skeletal frame of the city. He wasn't just a witness. He was a conductor. I didn't think. I couldn't afford to. I grabbed a delivery bike leaning against a nearby lamp post, its owner likely inside a deli sheltered from the deluge, and I pedaled. My muscles burned, a mirror to the heat I'd just fled. I tracked the 42 bus through 6 blocks of blurring rain until it hissed to a stop near the industrial district. The figure stepped out, moving with a rhythmic, haunting deliberation toward the shipyard. He didn't run. He didn't hide. He walked like a man who owned the night. "Hey," I screamed, my voice cracking through the thunder. "Who are you?" The figure stopped. He didn't turn, but I heard the sound, a metallic click-clack. A silver lighter flicked open and shut. "The fire wasn't an accident, was it?" I shouted, dropping the bike. "What do you want?" "The fire is never an accident, Manny," the voice drifted back, raspy and distorted. "It's a reckoning. Jason couldn't live with the weight of the warehouse on 5th Street. He wanted out. I just provided the door." My heart stopped. The warehouse, 3 years ago, we thought it was abandoned. We didn't know about the night watchman until the headlines hit the next morning. We had sworn a blood oath of silence. "I'm not Jason," I hissed. "No," the figure said, finally turning. The shadow of his hood revealed a face mapped with scar tissue, burns that had turned skin into leather. "You're the one who kept smoking while the world turned to ash. My name is Silas, and you're going to pay the interest on your debt." The Sons of the Harbor. Silas led me to a rotting brick monolith at the edge of the docks. The Sons of the Harbor Club. Inside, it smelled of sea salt, grease, and old secrets. He threw a leather-bound logbook onto the bar. It was filled with photos of me and Jason, our lives documented with the precision of a predator. "My brother was the man in that warehouse," Silas said, his eyes like cold ash. "He was tracking something bigger than a couple of kids with a lighter. He was tracking a shipment of white phosphorus and demolition triggers, tools for a massacre. He died before he could stop it. Now you're his replacement." He slid a silver lighter across the bar. It was heavy, engraved with an anchor wrapped in barbed wire. "There's a GPS tracker in the casing," Silas warned. "Try to run, and the police get the confession Jason wrote before he died. Stay, and you might survive the night. Your move, Manny." I looked at my hands. They were stained with Jason's death and my own cowardice. I picked up the lighter. Click-clack. The flame was small, but it was the only light I had left. Section 4G. The service tunnels beneath the club were tight, dripping with oily water. I moved through them like a ghost, fueled by a cocktail of adrenaline and self-loathing. Silas had given me a bag of dud triggers and a simple command: swap them, stop the shipment. I emerged from a floor grate into the North Dock terminal. The air was cold and hummed with the sound of massive generators. Ahead lay Section 4G2 guards in tactical gear patrolled the perimeter, their flashlights cutting through the gloom like sabers. I couldn't fight them. I wasn't a soldier. I was a guy who worked at a print shop and smoked too much. I looked up. High above, a series of rusted ventilation ducts crisscrossed the ceiling, suspended by steel cables. I climbed a maintenance ladder, my breath hitching in my throat. Every creak of the metal felt like an alarm. I crawled into the duct, the space so narrow I could feel the cold steel pressing against my spine. Below me, the guards passed, their voices muffled. "Did you hear about the fire uptown?" one asked. "Yeah, some junky roommate and a faulty outlet. Messy way to go." I gritted my teeth. Jason wasn't a junkie. He was a victim of our shared sin. I reached the vent cover directly over the crates marked with a black X. With shaking hands, I unscrewed the bolts. I lowered myself down a cargo chain, hovering just inches above the shipment. I opened the first crate. Inside, the triggers looked like harmless pieces of hardware, but they were the keys to a city's destruction. I worked quickly, swapping the live triggers for Silas's duds. 1, 2, 3. Suddenly, a loud clink echoed through the warehouse. The silver lighter had slipped from my pocket, hitting the concrete floor below. The guards froze. "Who's there?" I didn't wait. I dropped from the chain, snatched the lighter, and sprinted toward the shadows of the shipping containers. Bullets bit into the metal behind me, sending sparks flying like miniature fireworks. I dove behind a stack of pallets, my heart hammering against my ribs. I flicked the lighter. Click-clack. In the sudden flare of light, I saw a forklift parked nearby, a leaking barrel of industrial solvent beside it. I didn't think about the girl 3 years ago. I didn't think about the law. I thought about the man in the black robe and the debt that had to be paid. I tossed the lighter into the pool of solvent. The explosion wasn't huge, but the wall of blue flame was enough. In the confusion and the roar of the fire alarm, I slipped through the loading dock doors and vanished into the rain. The aftermath. I met Silas back at the edge of the shipyard as the sun began to bleed through the gray clouds. He was standing by a black sedan, the engine idling. "The triggers are swapped," I said, my voice hollow. "The shipment is useless." Silas looked at me, then at the distant smoke rising from the harbor. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a stack of papers, the photos, the confession, the evidence of my old life. He didn't say a word. He simply held them over a small puddle of burning oil near the curb and let them go. They turned to black flakes before they hit the ground. "You're a ghost now, Manny," Silas said, opening the car door. "And ghosts don't get to rest. We've got 5 more shipments to find." I looked back toward my apartment, toward the life that had burned away in a kitchen outlet. There was nothing left but the smoke. I got into the car. "Where to next?" I asked. Silas shifted into gear. "Where the heat is." The car pulled away, leaving nothing behind but the scent of ozone and the fading memory of a man who once lived in the light.